and you know, I at least will talk more about the Knicks in a bit, but I do not remember this. I will not remember this as an all-time Knicks comeback. I will remember this as an all-time Cavs collapse. And that is not always the case. I mix metaphors a bit. I don't view 28-3 in the Super Bowl as the Falcons making error after error after error, as much as I view it as the Patriots doing everything perfectly along the way. I think the Chiefs have had a lot of, you know, big second-half playoff comebacks that I think are more about the team taking it than the other team giving it away. So I don't always view it this way.
LeBron, 3-1.
Yeah, so I don't always view it as, you choked or you collapsed. I do last night, though. And it was just a comedy of self-inflicted errors by Cleveland that created the type of comeback I can't remember, in that it was the Knicks had 0 fast break points during the comeback. They're getting steals and getting out in transition. The Knicks, obviously they shot well and Brunson was great, but they didn't all of a sudden hit 7 straight threes and it's like, okay. No, it was, we're going to get a stop, we're going to go get a bucket. We're going to get a stop, we're going to go get a bucket. And obviously James Harden's fingerprints are all over this on both ends of the court, most notably defensively. And Kenny Atkinson, who I have thought for a long time and still think is a good coach, I believe froze.
Obviously. But I will remember this as a great Knicks comeback. If they win the series, which I expect them to in 5, as I've said, this will go down. This will be like a historic game for them, especially if they go on to win the championship.
Sure.
Like, this game will be remembered as the Larry Johnson 4-point play against Indiana. I think that was maybe the last time they went to the finals. I'm not sure the years.
99.
That was 99. I was at that game. But yeah, like, we remember that. We will remember this, the Allen Houston shot against Miami.
Also 99.
So
I'm a longtime Knicks fan. I have all these things.
yeah, but
At least 99.
that was the last time they've been in the finals. But this, because it's New York and it's Cleveland. Everything in New York is bigger. Obviously, it's our biggest city in the country. But because of the Knicks' history, haven't been to the finals, you know, since 99, haven't won a championship in 53 years. Jalen Brunson, who we'll talk about more in a little while, 15 points in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
Like, the Knicks are just so much bigger of a team and a city that I will remember this as an historic comeback.
Yeah. I'm genuinely thrilled to dive into this, and I'm really glad I selected this clip to react to because I think the discussion surrounding it is far more intriguing than the game itself. And we're going to cover all of it. But before I jump in, New York Knicks fans, please, please, please don't forget to hit subscribe and watch the entire video from beginning to end. When you all do that, views shoot through the roof, subscribers shoot through the roof. And it's not about chasing numbers. Obviously I want as many views and subscribers as I can get. It's about being able to produce Knicks content that people genuinely want to watch and talk about. So we can have the most impartial, level-headed, authentic conversations about the New York Knicks. And that's exactly what we're about to do right now, because I understand what Nick is saying, and I definitely understand what Brew is saying, but they're having 2 completely different discussions. Obviously, we're going to remember this more through the lens of the Knicks because it's the Knicks. It's a massive city. It's a massive franchise. Lots of stars. People are going to remember the Knicks far more than whatever version of this Cleveland Cavaliers team exists. It would be one thing if this was LeBron James and Kyrie Irving, then maybe I could understand that to some extent. But these are different conversations that Brew and Nick are having. And what Nick is talking about, how some comebacks are more about the team choking versus the other team rising to the occasion, etc., etc. And it's like, I just got into this exact debate with someone on the football channel over at JWL Sports. Someone was saying, I'll leave the team out of it so we don't get too sidetracked. They were saying, oh, this quarterback had all these comeback wins, but it was only because of the defense. And it's like, you need defensive stops to be able to mount a comeback. That's how it works. You need the defense, you can't come back if the defense isn't doing its job in those situations. It would be impossible for you to make up the ground and then outscore the other team. Okay? So you always need that. And in any of these types of moments, especially these big comebacks, the other team always has to play their part in losing. Always. 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 Whether it's a big moment with LeBron James and the Cavs, or Tom Brady going against the Atlanta Falcons, or whatever scenario like coming back from down 3-1, it's never just one individual. So when Nick is trying to draw this line as if it's one or the other, I'm going to tell you that 99% of the time it's somewhere in the middle. Now, I understand wanting to jump and say, this is more about this team losing than that team winning. And I don't mind looking at it through that lens in sports in general. And it's something I've learned very quickly, anger is a friend to a fan base. Right? I already know Nick coming out here and saying, oh, this is more about the Cavs losing than the Knicks winning. I know that immediately sets off every Knicks fan, because nobody wants to hear that. They want to hear how their team made it happen, not how the other team lost. And I do think it's important to try to get to the bottom of it and figure out what's what. And in this situation, I actually think it's right down the middle. I think it's right down the middle, and if anything, it's skewed more toward New York. In fact, let me take that back. It's not right down the middle. If anything, I see it as more like a 60-40 or 70-30 split in New York's favor. Because New York easily could have just waved the white flag eventually. They absolutely could have pulled the starters. Oh, it's a long series, this and that, right? They easily could have, and they didn't. And then they had a specific plan of attack. What they were trying to do was very intentional. Now, again, the Cavs' play down the stretch was terrible. Awful, awful, awful. There were times I thought, what shot are you taking? Or the ball isn't even in your best player's hands, and you're just thinking, what are you doing? That was bad basketball, no question. But that doesn't take away from the great basketball New York played. It does not take away from the great execution. I talk about this in almost every video, I feel like, and I apologize, but I talk about my own basketball philosophy, organized chaos. Organized chaos. It's when things get so fast, so intense, that everything is going back and forth. It's all sped up, and it's in the final minute 30 of a game, that's when these games are won and lost. That's when they're won and lost. And I actually refined that take a few years ago when New York played Philadelphia. You could see that New York was just so much better in those organized chaos moments than Philly. It wasn't even close. Back then, I thought New York's ability to play in organized chaos was through the absolute roof. And it feels like they lost a little bit of that over the last couple of years as things unfolded. But in this specific game, it was maximized as high as you possibly can. And that's a huge deal. And you could see the opposite for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And a game like this is actually the opposite of my take on the Spurs versus OKC, where I said I think OKC could lose that game and not have it feel so devastating, whereas if San Antonio had lost that first game, it would have felt devastating. And it's a brutal thing to have to get the energy back and try to win game 2. It's brutal. But I think OKC could handle that because of how the game unfolded specifically for them. It's not just the outcome and the score. It's specifically how the game unfolded, being at home versus being on the road, etc., etc. With New York, if they had lost this game, it obviously would have been a tough loss. It would have been a tough loss. And people would have said, oh, we were just rusty. Which I disagree with. At first, when it felt like the Knicks were going to lose, I had all my notes. After the game ended, I swear I crumpled them up and threw them away because I thought, none of this matters right now. But I was already ready to counter the Knicks are just rusty argument. Because the Knicks simply weren't playing great basketball. And the Cavs were playing incredible basketball. They were so perfect with the mismatches, with the 5-on-4 situations. They were making all the extra passes. They were just playing awesome basketball. And then the Knicks obviously completely turned it on. So if the Knicks had ended up losing this game, even getting blown out, I would have been able to look at it and say, well, the Cavs played their best ball, and the Knicks didn't at all. And I can accept that more easily. It's easier for me to accept that. Here, the Cavs literally played their best ball, were up by a huge margin in the fourth quarter, and then couldn't close it out. That is devastating. On one side, I was looking at the Knicks through the lens of the Dallas Cowboys, where I thought, yeah, they beat up on some lower-level teams and run up the score, making themselves seem much bigger than they really are. Now they're going up against the Cavs and getting blown off the court, right? And I thought, that is such a Dallas Cowboys thing to do. But then they came back and won, and that's the opposite of what the Dallas Cowboys do. That's the exact opposite of who the Dallas Cowboys are. Oh, I mean, this game was wild. I couldn't believe I was watching it. It was a completely different felt experience watching this versus OKC, San Antonio, and that kind of back and forth. I put myself, because I've spent plenty of time in New York, I imagined myself seeing the fans. Honestly, weirdly enough, I was more locked in with the fans, especially when the game got tied. I could only imagine what it felt like to be there. I had that feeling of, man, we're getting blown out. And then, literally in the blink of an eye, the score is all tied up. And at that point, I had no sense that the Cavs were going to win in overtime. None. Zero. As soon as that happened, I thought, the game is over. Unless Cleveland could hit some sort of prayer, a buzzer beater to end the game before overtime, I thought to myself, the Cavaliers have zero chance. Zero chance to win this game. And that's exactly how overtime unfolded. As long as New York just didn't go ice cold, Cleveland had no chance. They had no chance. So this was a wild win, a wild game. When was the last time we had both conference finals game 1 go into overtime? Just wild, wild, wild. And this is why people gave Ant so much heat. I didn't get a chance to cover it, but why they gave him so much heat for shaking hands with the other team with like 8 minutes to go, and pulling all the starters and whatnot. Because literally anything is possible. They were down 22 with 7 minutes and 40 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Anything is possible, man. Anything is possible. You just go, 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 go. I didn't get a chance to cover this game as early as I would have wanted to, just because of how the day unfolded, and I knew I wanted to see what First Things First had to say. But someone asked, do you just hate the Knicks? Why aren't you talking about them? And I appreciate you saying that, or commenting that, because it means you're looking for the content I'm making. And I truly, truly appreciate that. But it's like, are you kidding me? Some of the players on the Knicks I absolutely love. Jalen Brunson's mentality, attitude, work ethic, and his whole NBA story, I absolutely love. I love KAT. I'm an outlier here. I love KAT. I love his personality. I love his energy. I think he's always misused and always scapegoated. I absolutely love KAT. Big time. Mikal Bridges and the absolute iron soldier that he is. So there's some confusion about my views of the Knicks. And again, the city of New York, I absolutely love it. Are you kidding me? It's one of the best places, I think the best place to visit, maybe not live, because I don't have that in me, but to visit? Are you kidding? You have literally everything under the sun in New York. It's definitely a city that's alive, right? You just know it. You go to New York, and you just know that everyone is alive and trying to live. And that's why it's too much for me to live there, because I need to be able to disappear and not be in it 24/7. Anytime I go to New Y. Work for an extended period and then come back home, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so quiet. I don't hear any buzzing, I don't hear anything else. But man, just going to Madison Square Garden, or Penn Station in general, or even the main hub when you first arrive, you're immediately hit with, I'm alive right now. It's impossible not to feel that. Most people sleepwalk through life, that's impossible in New York. That is literally objectively and subjectively impossible. So New York is amazing. But this game was a devastating loss for Cleveland and a massive win for New York, no doubt about it. And I wouldn't lose too much sleep trying to figure out what the bigger story is, the Cavs collapse or the Knicks comeback. I get the conversation, and I think it's an interesting one to have and worth discussing. But you have to tell the whole story. Not everything is just one side or the other. Not everything is always yes or no, left or right. Sometimes things can be in the middle. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the New York Knicks? What's the bigger story, the Cavs collapsing or the Knicks coming back? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some arguments. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.